What's up, demons? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship. Psych, we are actually taking a trip on the magic shroom bus. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Y'all are my motherfucking monsters. And here is the story about my very first time tripping on shrooms. I don't know what catastrophic series of events has led you to my channel, but welcome. I am here to tell you about my first shroom trip, like as in mushrooms, like the drugs. Okay, first off, let's address the stigma, because I know y'all are sitting here like, I'm sorry, sis, you said what? I feel like there is such a negative stigma. Not saying there should be a positive one. I feel like there should just be a more open one. I grew up in a very strict like school environment where they're basically like, don't do drugs, you will die, don't have sex, you will get pregnant. And they're very like taboo topics that nobody be talking about. And so of course, naturally, human curiosity, what are we gonna do? We're gonna go do drugs and we're gonna go have sex. Not everybody, I'm not speaking for everybody, but y'all know if you're watching this and you're like, you might even have sex while on drugs. You never know, mix it up a little bit. I hate the idea that ignorance and just telling people not to do something is going to stop people from doing it. Like, it's just human curiosity. And then later you find out that the same you was doing is the stuff that your parents were probably doing, or somebody's parents, or some adults back in the day, you know, when they were at festivals and doing and whatever it was, back in the day, they were doing the same exact thing. So it's like, I think in a way parents and adults know like, oh, we know what we were up to. Let's try to prevent them from doing it. I think it's really important to create an open environment and have these discussions. This is why I love like forums like Reddit and stuff like that, because you can find out so much information. There are going to be people who do it regardless. I wouldn't advise any of this, by the way. This is all 18 plus. This is the 18 plus discussion. This is the grown folks that are talking. This is rated G for grown, okay? That said, I think it's important to open these discussions, because for the people who are like, well, I want to try, you don't want people to try things dangerously. You don't want people to try things in ignorance. Oh, so-and-so told me not to have sex, but I'm gonna go have sex. What happened? People came to school pregnant. Everything was just like, don't have sex, you're gonna get pregnant, you're gonna catch STDs. Like, it was scary. It was like fear tactics. It was just like, don't do it. Don't do it. That don't help nobody who's going to do it. I think it's really important to create these environments where we talk about things. So here I am talking about it. You can judge me as you want. Yes, I have had mushrooms before, the forbidden forest fruit, whatever you want to call it. And I had the same like mindset before I did it for the first time. I was just like, no, that's scary. That's dangerous. Those are real drugs. Like, I'll smoke my weed, but shrooms? Shrooms? Where do you even get shrooms? But the thing is, okay, so shrooms are literally shrooms. They're grown. It's not a piece of paper. It's not a pill. It's not crafted in a lab. They're shrooms. And I think it's wild that like the most natural drugs are so demonized. Have y'all noticed that? Weed, shrooms, like the stuff that really don't be hurting nobody. Like, nobody's gone on shrooms. Well, to my knowledge, you don't hear about people in the news like, oh, they were on shrooms and they went and murdered 5 people. Like, people do that sober, which is sad and sick. But there are so many like natural drugs out there that I feel like are getting demonized, because as soon as people start realizing there are more natural ways of feeling happy, and obviously shrooms is not one of them, but let's take weed. All right, weed. I feel like that would start to ruin the pharmaceutical company, you know, because there's a lot of money in that. And yeah, I know weed costs money too, but I'm just saying sometimes like the pharmaceutical industry, there are so many side effects. You take a pill for depression and you want to kill yourself. Like, it's wild to me. But you smoke some weed, you might get a little paranoid. Depends on what strain you're smoking, all this stuff. I love shrooms. I love them, and they're not addictive, y'all. They're not addictive. I'm not like, oh my God, I need shrooms. Like, no, they're not addictive. They are really magical. And because of the stigma and the demon energy around them, all that craziness, people are so scared. People are like, oh, you're a drug addict. My own boyfriend at the time, he's my ex now, he was like, you and your friends are drug addicts. I was like, what? Excuse me? So I'm here, I'm not encouraging them, I'm not peer pressuring you, nothing like that. I'm just talking about them. Hopefully educating you about it a little bit to the most I know. And of course I don't know everything, so people, you know, comment down below, let me know your experiences. But this is just basically my personal experience with shrooms. I think it's better to be educated and make a wise decision instead of being uneducated and doing something dangerous, even if you didn't mean to. All right, so I'm gonna tell y'all some things about shrooms themselves if you're curious. A little crunchy. They're like dry and crunchy. You can like grind them up. They're not like these chewy, like a shroom, a mushroom you would get out of your yard and it's all spongy. No, we get like tiny, they're like tiny little dried up. They smell terrible. They smell so bad. Like, oh my gosh. It's like a combination of like rotten eggs and like mild gym socks. They smell so bad. And I think because the first time we tried it, it was such an unexpected smell, but it was sick. The way you can take them, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different ways, but the ways we took them, we had orange juice and we had a friend with a grinder that grinded them up, put it in the orange juice. It looks like a nasty slush, like a I don't even know. It's like a sloshy type brown and orange mixture. And I know this sounds disgusting. People are like, why would you want to do this? Listen, so we drank it like that. Some people eat them raw and some people put them in like a peanut butter sandwich. Basically, you have to try to mask. You don't have to, but people like prefer to mask the smell and taste because it's pretty intense. Regarding dosage, I would highly recommend going to like Reddit or looking online. There's a lot of do's and don'ts, trip tips, and like tricks and things you could know. Personal stories, which are my favorite. Reddit is hilarious and very insightful too. Just a lot of stuff you should know for your first trip. It's not mandatory, but it's really helpful. We took, I think, like 2.5 grams for our first trip. Also, I want to say that tripping is such a treat. It's not going to be like, I need to trip next week. It's one of those things where if life is just doing its thing, a couple months go by and you're like, oh, you found somebody with shrooms. Like I said, it's not addictive. That's one of the best things. I'm never craving shrooms. It just makes me very happy. I feel like a little kid, honestly. And that's such a beautiful part about them. I mean, just not like, there are so many scary, dangerous, hard drugs I will never try in my life. Like, and a lot of people might think shrooms is one of them. You take shrooms, it lasts about 6 to 8 hours, by the way. You take your little trip, woo wee, yeah, and then you slowly come down. There's no bad come down. You're not like, rage, you know, it's just a slow come down. It's really nice and gentle, and then you're like, oh, sober again. Cool. I also want to say that everything was so beautiful on shrooms. Everything was so beautiful. It was intensified. It's like life feels like a kaleidoscope. It's just so colorful. It doesn't look like it. That's not what the visuals look like, but it just felt so colorful. I felt childlike. I was basically a huge ass little kid again, but I was a grown-ass woman. It was beautiful. I had no concerns. I wasn't thinking about my bills and my stress and my family and my friends and my relationship. I was just happy. I was just so happy. My heart was just boom, 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 boom. My brain was just like, woo, like it's just so beautiful. Nature on shrooms, if you could trip in like a cabin in like a beautiful mountain area that's safe, if you could trip somewhere where there's some trees, something, nature looks so beautiful. You don't even have to like nature. I personally do, but you don't have to like nature for it to look beautiful on shrooms. Everything's mesmerizing. The way nature is drawn in anime, the leaves rustling in the wind and the river slowly, is beautiful. I've never appreciated this world more than when I was on shrooms. Another thing to know, when you're tripping, you're not gonna sleep. Like, sleep doesn't, it's not a thing. It doesn't exist. You know, like if you sleep on a trip, I'm very surprised, or you probably tripped a lot. Maybe you have a high tolerance. You feel wired. Your whole body's just like, you're not really hungry either. That's another thing. Like basic human function and desires kind of just vanish. Like you're still gonna pee. You could still pee and stuff. I never took on a trip. I'm sorry if that's weird to say. I've peed, of course, but I don't think I'd be capable. Honestly, my body's probably like, what are we doing? What are we trying to achieve? That said, you're just chilling. Like your body's just like in sleep mode, but you're awake, you're wired. And that's the best part too. You are fully there. You can comprehend everything. You're fully conscious. You're not like, oh my God, I'm gonna black out. I woke up and I was in the middle of traffic running around naked. Like, no, you're there. Like if I was here now, if I was on shrooms, I'd probably just be like, hey, I was having spaghetti. Woo. Like, it's just this like, it's bubbly. It's just this right here, this feeling is just woo, woo, woo. It feels just like that. Like everything's just like cool. Whew. Like everything has a second skin almost. It's so colorful. It feels like it's breathing. The walls are breathing. Everything's breathing around you. You're just in this like, you don't necessarily, like I personally didn't, off of like what I took, you're not like, oh my God, a leprechaun, oh my God, a unicorn. Like you're just kind of there and like, it's a feeling I cannot describe. You might get stuck while you're tripping too. That's another thing. So like, all right, colors are so big. I'm gonna get into this too. But like you'll get stuck looking at something. So if there's a pretty colorful light next to me, you'll be walking around and you're like, wow. Like you be in the middle of a task and it just, Like, you have to have a completely empty schedule when you trip. You know, don't expect to get anything done or anything like that. Give yourself the time to be a child for 6 to 8 hours. Don't have anything planned. Don't schedule any important calls, nothing like that. Just you and whoever you're tripping with, because it is more fun to trip with friends. Just set aside that time block, because you're not going to get anything done. You're just going to be walking around your house like, never seen that move like that before. Your whole house in whatever environment you're tripping in just turns into a whole different place. It's like glowing. It has this like essence, this aura to it. You're just like, oh, everything's so iridescent. Be careful about looking in mirrors. Maybe not for your first trip. I have looked at myself in the mirror during trips and I have seen my face age in reverse and forward over and over and over again. It's so trippy. Like, I will see my face, like I could see myself getting older, like a Snapchat filter with the old person, and then younger all of a sudden, and just over and repeat, over and repeat. And when I'm on shrooms, my sense of self is damn near destroyed, because I'd be looking at myself and I'm like, is that what I look like? And then it changes 2 seconds later, not to something crazy, and I'm not melting or nothing like that, but like it just shifts a little bit, and it's like, oh, you're 30 now. No, just kidding, you're 13. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, so be careful with mirrors. I like doing it now when I'm tripping. Oh, that's another thing. Okay, so when you trip, personally for me, I think it's fun to get cute and colorful. You're fully conscious when you trip. You're gonna remember everything. You're not gonna be like, oh my God, what happened? Like right after the trip, you remember everything. Like everything's still in your brain. It still happened. You can like recall funny moments with your friends. Nothing crazy like I lost my memory. You're there for the whole 6 to 8 hours or however long your trip takes. So there's no worry about that. The only thing like my friends and I personally forgot is how we moved. It was very strange. Say I'm sitting here, right? And say I walked over to the bed and I was on shrooms. When did I get up? Like, it's like that. You don't remember moving sometimes because your body's just kind of like an autopilot and you're there and you're doing the things you're telling your body to do. But sometimes we would be like sitting on the floor and then we're all standing up and we're like, when did we get up? Standing. That's a whole thing. It's like we felt wobbly. That's not scary, honestly. It's just like you're in a coherent dream state. Make sure you get yourself something colorful to wear. You don't have to, but I think it's really fun. And make sure you look nice. When I was on shrooms, because my sense of self felt like destroyed, because I looked better, I felt better. The second time I tripped, I didn't look as nice as I wanted to, so I felt a little bit insecure. Like during the first trip, it's just so nice looking at stuff. My best friend looked absolutely gorgeous. Oh my gosh, she does her makeup in all these amazing, phenomenal, pretty ass colors. Don't get dressed up. Don't get dressed up in something that's tight or uncomfortable or that's gonna bother you later. You wanna be comfortable. You wanna go take a hot shower before you go trip. Put on some comfy clothes like this, a soft hoodie, some shorts, something soft, something comfortable, and just enjoy the trip. Don't wear something that's going to irritate you later. Also, by the way, touching while tripping feels phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Touching while tripping is just like, everything just feels great. Everybody looks great. Colors are great. Everything's just woohoo. It's just a whole party, honestly, a whole party in your head. Everything's also a wonder. I kept rediscovering stuff. Like, I'm an adult and I know these things clearly. And it sounds so stupid now, but when we were on shrooms, it just felt like so like, wow, like that's fascinating. You have to trip with hilarious people. You have to trip with people that you are comfortable with, you can have fun with, you can laugh with, because we were weak. We were so weak, especially when you're like climbing and like you start to hit your peak of the trip, which is basically like the high point of like, okay, you're gonna climb like a roller coaster and your trip's like, oh my God, whoa, and then you slowly start to come down. You're still tripping, you're still having fun when you're coming down. It's just not as intense as the climb and like when you hit your peak. But we were weak, y'all. We were like coming down at one point and like our friend lit up sparked up some weed and we were like, we're doing drugs on drugs. Like, we were just, everything was just so hilarious. Whether it was actually funny or not, it was funny to us, and that's all that mattered. We were like in tears from laughter, but fully functional, fully there. That said, my first shroom trip. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now that we've hopefully removed some of the stigma around shrooms, you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to like it, you don't have to watch this video, but I appreciate you if you do. Let me know if you want more videos like this. So I work at a warehouse. All right, there's this guy I call Candyman because he always had candy for us. Like, he would do like cool stuff, like put stickers everywhere, like cool like Rick and Morty stickers. I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all like, wow, this story's already off to a rough start. She's accepting candy from strangers at work. But I promise, no, he was cool. Like, we knew him and everything. Some months had gone by and stuff like that. And when you're working in a warehouse for like 10 hours, and especially during the holidays, over 10 hours, and you're driving like serious machinery, like I had a license, y'all. I was driving a whole like I was driving a whole thing. I had a little fake license and everything. We were lifting like 100-pound boxes. It gets exhausting. When you are working long shifts in a dark, boring, sad, you know, unstimulating warehouse for someone who makes a lot of money. Anything that disrupts the flow of your boring ass job is just interesting. Whether it's work drama, whether you get into it or not, whether it's like a relationship or a secret like boo or whatever working with you, whether that's like getting candy from, you know, your coworker. It's the littlest thing sometimes. And so I called him Candyman. We're gonna call him Candyman for the sake of the story. He had actually introduced me personally to shrooms. I'd heard about them, of course. I just never tried them. And so we started hanging out at lunch. Somehow we got on the topic of drugs, and that led to shrooms and a whole conversation, and he was so excited, y'all. And there was actually another girl at work too who had brought it up and said, she was like, oh, this is great. Like, I was like, has everyone tried shrooms? Of course, naturally I become curious. I'm like, okay, so is this just some like adult rite of passage? Like, when did everybody do shrooms? Nobody told me. Where do you get them? What do they look like? What happens? Am I gonna lose my mind if everyone jumps off a bridge? Are you going to too? No, but if everybody has tried shrooms, I might have a taste. Like, what? So Candyman's like, he assembles the little crew. He gets me and my best friend. We all know each other, and he's like, we should trip. I'm gonna get some shrooms. And we're like, whoa, okay, cool. It's gonna be at my best friend's house, because that's another thing. When you trip, you want to be in a controlled environment. First trip, please stay inside. Don't go outside. If you're first time on shrooms, don't be outside like you know everything. Like, you want to be in a safe, controlled environment where you know nothing bad's gonna happen to you. Like, you don't want to be around the public. Like, you're in a very, I would say, vulnerable state, or not even emotional, but just like, it's such a different state. You don't want to be anywhere where there's too much stimulation, or you know, and it's not necessarily that you're gonna freak out, but just don't risk it. See how the drugs work just on you. Keep extra variables like people and whatever out of the situation. Just focus on yourself and see how you react to, you know, shrooms first before you start bringing in other factors of the outside world. So the day comes that we're supposed to trip. Me and my best friend had gone shopping for colorful clothes such as these. I think Candyman told us to do it, and we were like, okay, sure. I had this like cute tie-dye dress. So we're at our house, it's evening time. Candyman shows up with a whole backpack, like he's going camping, and we're like, okay, all right. I'm over here like, did he handpick the shrooms himself? Was he just in the forest? Like, why does this man have a whole bag? He pulls out the works. He has the scale and the grinder, these colorful posters and orange juice. And I was like, oh, this is a whole like ritual. So he grinds up like 2.5 grams for us. He stares at it, he makes our cups. He was trip sitting us, which is basically somebody who like watches you while you're tripping to make sure you're okay, nothing crazy happens. But he was also tripping as a friend with us. So we're drinking our orange juice. We're like, okay, I was so nervous. Y'all, I was so nervous. I was like, what's gonna happen? Because like, you can't undo drugs. Once they're down, they're down. We chug it down, and we're sitting in the living room just staring at each other, like waiting for the drugs to work. It takes like an hour to feel the stuff. Your jaw might lock. That's one sign. You might feel really like light and airy. And when the stuff starts to hit, your vision gets wonky. Like, those are the first visuals where you're like, everything's a little blurry. I'm not talking about like bad vision blurry. It's just like that second skin I was telling you, that kind of like that waver. It hits my best friend first. That's another thing. While you're waiting, like, you're allowed to just chill and like be quiet and whatnot, and just like wait for the effects and see what's gonna happen. But like, have conversation. I feel like us having conversation was like a catalyst to our euphoria, because we just kept being weak off of stuff happening, or the stuff we were talking about. So don't be afraid to like tell stories, you know, talk to each other. Don't talk about anything crazy or dark or like, ooh, just avoid it. Like, talk about fun, lighthearted stuff. Don't insult anybody. Don't hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. You know, it's supposed to be a good time. It's about good mental. Have a good mental when you go into tripping. Be in a good mood. You don't want to have all this stress and stuff on your mind, because what you have going on up here and in here might carry over into your trip. I have tripped heartbroken before, and it is horrendous. It was just very emotional. I tripped when I didn't have a single worry in the world. So you definitely want to be on the better end of the spectrum of not having worries and minding your business. But yeah, make jokes, make funny faces, talk about stuff, like make it interesting, you know. Try not to be a trip troll. It depends on the type of relationship you have with somebody, where if y'all are on that same vibe, or you're like best friends or anything like that, then it's easier and it's like, okay, everybody knows no hard feelings. It really just depends on who you're tripping with. Trip with people who are exciting and carefree and they don't care about seeing you dance and do a bunch of fun stuff. Like, you gotta trip with people you're comfortable with. That's so important, because otherwise you might have an awkward time or a bad time. Honestly, after we took the shrooms, like, everything was just like, it was like an adult daycare. Like, take your drugs at the door and just be happy. It was so much fun. We were just cracking up. We saw sides of each other we've never seen. Like, we were all rolling on the floor like giant children. We had blankets. Make sure you get yourself some comfortable blankets. Make a fort. Make sure you're somewhere safe where you're not gonna run into stuff and knock stuff over, where you can make noise so you don't annoy your neighbors. Be comfortable. Get blankets. You're just in this adult daycare the whole time. We were rolling on the floor. We were over here laughing with each other, hooting and hollering and screaming and oh my god. Like, the sides we saw of each other was something different. So it's really important who you trip with, because you can't always show everybody that side of you. Some people might be like, okay. You want to trip with really fun people. But it was amazing. Like, the whole trip, we were talking about stuff, we were slowly remembering stuff. We're like, what time is it? Like, hours later, we're like, time's a thing. Time is made up. How can we be late if we made up time? Like, we were just going. And all right, y'all, so I had muted the audio to this because there's music playing in the background, but basically my friend was like, Danny, what the f are you talking about? I was like, time is made up. Time is made up. We can never be late because we made up time. How can we be late to something we made up? Oh, I was like, oh my god, it was revolutionary. My friend was like, you look so different through this phone, and I was like, they don't see what you see. And then I was just kind of like glitching, and then I was like, yo, feel your hair, because once again, touching felt so good. I was just like, feel your hair. Yeah, oh my gosh, woo. It's so weird because it's like such a childish, lighthearted, fun experience, but it's still insightful and like sometimes philosophical in a way, believe it or not. Like, we were just going in like, how can we be late to something we made up? We had posters that Candyman brought. They were beautiful. When you're tripping, if you look at them, they're just regular, like, oh, surreal, colorful posters. When you're tripping, these were the most beautiful posters I've ever seen. I thought I could jump into them like a portal. Like, I was just staring at them, just lost. The things were moving. We had like 10 or 15 of them, and like, there was like a ship on the water with the stars and the constellations and a little boy staring off into the distance, and it looked like the ship was really moving on the water, and like I could see the clouds moving. It's so wild because you're staring at a stagnant, unmoving object, and because of what's going on in here and the magic forbidden forest fruit, it looks like a whole like 3D movie that you could jump into. It was beautiful. It was such a beautiful experience. I'm so surprised something like shrooms gets demonized. I understand there are a risk of a bad trip, but I feel like it's a little bit harder with shrooms because if you're in the right headspace, you don't overdo it with the dosage and you're just chilling, I feel like it's a good formula for success. Just be in a good mood, be happy, be here, be ready to go, and you know, don't take too much, don't go overboard with it. There are things like ego death and all this stuff. If y'all want to research, I'm not personally getting into that. Like, I'm happy with my 2.5-3 grams, okay? But it was beautiful. At one point we went outside in the backyard because my friend lives on the first floor, and we had a huge blanket. We took it out there like little kids, and we were just laying in the grass and the trees. And once again, nature, y'all, nature on shrooms, it's so different. Like, you could have a boring ass oak tree in your backyard and you'd be like, wow. It's just so, it was beautiful. But we went outside, and that was towards the come down of our trip. Like, we peaked, we're running around, we're just playing with stuff, going crazy, looking at the posters. Standing, how'd you get over there? How'd you get over there? Don't look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror. Peeing. Oh, peeing was hard, bro. The first trip, peeing was hard. You keep getting distracted, and then like actually trying to push out the pee was a situation. But like, we handled it. We all managed to pee, so it wasn't that bad. I don't know what it is. Like, the brain was like, no, I'm having fun. I don't want to pee right now. And we're like, no, but we gotta push it out. And then like you hear this like tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. So that was probably the most difficult part about being on shrooms. But yeah, towards the end, we went outside, we smoked weed, drugs on drugs, drugs squared. We all deal with depression too, so we were just getting into it. Especially, oh, if you deal with depression, I deal with severe depression, y'all. Shrooms was phenomenal. And it's not something you can do all the time, but it makes it that much more of a delight and a novelty. Every few months you could look forward to like a shroom trip and just feeling utter happiness. Like, is this what regular people who are not depressed feel like? You know, the super positive people are like, everything's good, woo, 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 woo. Like, is that how y'all feel like all the time? Because that's intense. Like, that's some intense positivity right there. I feel like the word euphoria comes from shrooms. I think of colorful bursts of light and sun rays and everything feeling good and touching and happiness and unbothered thoughts and nobody thinking about sad stuff. But yeah, we went outside, we sat on our big ass blankets and we were just out there chilling, smoking some weed. We're coming down, like, are we still tripping? Nah, yeah, we are. No, we're not. Yeah. Like, that was, you just, those creepy ass, like, where you just burst into laughter. That is honestly what it feels like. It's such a wild, surreal feeling, but we were just chilling. Trip ended, and everything after a trip feels lovely. It's like you rediscovered it again. Showering, oh, a hot shower. Oh, I've never felt water before. Fresh fruit. Fresh fruit. Don't get me started on some fresh fruit. I've never tasted food before. Everything hits so different. That's my biggest advice to you too. After, you gotta prepare. Tripping is not just like, hey, let's take some drugs and da-da-da-da. You need to prepare for shrooms. Have your supplies, have stuff to play with while you're tripping, sensory items and stuff like that. And even afterwards, the aftercare of shrooms. Like, you want to eat some fresh fruit, you want to drink something nice and refreshing, do something really calming and chill. And even towards the end of the trip, like, you can have activities where you're coming down, maybe a game of Jenga, games and stuff, playing Uno, something like that, stuff you could play, because like I said, you're still fully there. You're not like, oh my god, what's happening, whoa, you know, you're still fully there. It's just you're in an altered state of mind, but you're coherent. So we were chilling, we were watching Avatar, eating fresh fruit, just grapes and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, grapes, fresh apples, that yum yum, it was so good. After you trip, by the way, here's another thing. Okay, so you're gonna be exhausted the next day. Maybe we're just out of shape and lazy and tired, but I think this applies to like a lot of people. You're going to be very tired the day after you trip. I don't know what the reasoning is. I don't know if it's because you're taking all your energy to be a big ass little kid for 6 to 8 hours, but we slept like all day. So make sure you don't trip the day before you have something important. No important calls, no important meetings. Don't trip the day before you gotta go to work. Like, it needs to be a free weekend. You shouldn't have anything to worry about, nothing to stress about. There shouldn't be any thoughts of like, oh, I should be doing this. Like, you need to have a free schedule, free mind, free heart, you know, and just be ready to let go. Just be there for the ride. So yeah, that was my first trip. It was very fun. I was very scared and nervous before it happened. I was like, drugs are dangerous. I would never do them. That's the devil's lettuce. Like, you know, and slowly I got introduced to weed. And like I said, I would never try anything hard. Like, that's not for me. But I feel like shrooms and like stuff like that are in a whole different category. And I think they just get demonized because they're natural ways of being happy. Like, can you imagine going to the doctor and they're like, I'm gonna prescribe you some shrooms? Like, what year is that? Please let me know. Also, tripping's the kind of thing where it's an event somewhat. You want to be in your house, you want to have time to just do literally nothing and everything chaotic for the next like 6 to 8 hours. So no one could really be on shrooms in public on a regular basis. You know what I mean? It'd be weird if you like went to work or school and someone's just like, I understand why they're not like fully integrated into society. I just think it's sad that it's like demonized, you know what I mean? But yeah, tips and tricks. I named some stuff when I was telling the story, but definitely prepare for it. I would chug it down with some orange juice, or if you're brave, just chomp that monster down with like a peanut butter sandwich or something like that. Don't take too much, you know your body, know your tolerance and stuff. I know tolerance for all drugs is different, but I'm a lightweight with alcohol and weed, but with shrooms, I did 2.5 to start off. You can always add to it later if you want to. And then the next time I tripped, I did 3. And I think I would honestly probably like chill out at 3. 3 is the perfect like, whew, for me, you know, it's not too overwhelming, but it's still very exciting. Trip in a super safe and comfortable environment. Be around good people. Like, being around the wrong people could cause a bad trip. If somebody's saying something to you that might upset you or make you uncomfortable or stress you out or anything like that, you don't want to trip with somebody like that, because tripping's fun. It's like a vulnerable, I consider it vulnerable. You're in a whole state just acting wild, like, woo, yeah, woo. You don't want everybody to see that. Like, not everybody's deserving. It really is your inner child. Like, not everybody should see that. That's a very fragile and vulnerable part of yourself. I'm not trying to make this sound all deep, but like, I think it's important. You trip with the wrong people, the next 8 hours, you're just like, ugh, why did I trip with them? Luckily, I've never had that so far. Make sure you get sensory items or something to play with while you're tripping. Like, you don't want to just trip in like an empty ass room and have nowhere to like roll around, have fun, nothing to do, like just staring at each other like hee hee hee. I'm sure it's fun because like drugs, like the way you feel probably triumphs all of that, but at the same time, having stuff to play with, like we had a bunch of stuff, a bunch of colorful like toys, posters that were so cool. Like they were trippy. They were very trippy. Shower beforehand, put on some really comfortable clothes, soft clothes that you feel good in. Trip with people you really with, like the funnier they are, the better. You know, don't be tripping with no frenemies or nothing like that. That's just gonna put you in a foul mood or like a mood, or you might be scared to show yourself too. Like you might be more reserved because you're like, oh man, I want to jump around and bounce around. And your whole trip's not jumping around and bouncing around, by the way. There are points where we were just sitting and we were just like, this feels great. Like, oh man, this is lovely. And then it would go to like, let's dance. So your whole trip's not gonna be like, hi, I'm Ticker, nice to meet you. Like, no, you're gonna be fine. For people who are versatile, you could still like sit and chill and whatnot, and you can also like, you know, go wild and go crazy and have dance parties and stuff. Make sure you get some like fresh fruit. If you like fruit after a trip, oh my God, it was so good. And a fruit tart from like Publix or like one of those grocery stores, the fruit tarts were so tasty. Oh my God, they were so good. When they talk about food porn and stuff like that, I assume they talk about eating fruit and fruit tarts after tripping on shrooms, because oh my gosh, it was a phenomenal feeling and taste. For your first time, try to find a trip sitter, like somebody who can kind of help you through it and be there while you trip and reassure you and stuff like that. We didn't end up like needing any sort of like emergency intervention, like, oh my God, we're tripping, hey, please help. You know, there was nothing like that, but it was just nice to have somebody there who was experienced. Also, another huge thing, playlists. If you are a music person, playlist while you're tripping is everything. Have music going on in the background. Make a playlist. No, don't make a playlist that you're gonna change the song to and go to your favorite songs. Make a playlist where every song in consecutive order is going to be a vibe, a bop, whatever you need, because you're not gonna be playing, if you can even operate your phone. The first time we tripped, it was like a phone, get distracted. What? Huh? Texting. I was trying to text. Your whole phone's like, it looks like a whole different language. On my third trip, I was able to text pretty easy. Like I was just like, oh, hey guys, what's up? First trip, I was just like, it looked like, honestly, like hieroglyphics. It was very difficult to text. That said, make a playlist that, you know, if it's a group, get everybody to put their music on a playlist, everybody vibes with. Don't play no dark, scary, hype music that's gonna put people in a bad mood. It's gonna influence a bad trip. Like nobody's trying to hear yo dark, sad scream. I mean, if that's your thing, if that's your taste, if that's what you're into and you can listen to that and have a lovely trip, by all means, please go ahead. But I'm just saying that like maybe you're more eccentric music, if you have any type of like rock, screamo, anything like that. And I'm not even trying to target those categories. I'm just saying anything that might be hurtful, any kind of rap music with like intense lyrics that might make you like, ooh, that triggered me. Like anything that might get to you up here or right here, avoid. Have dance songs on there. Have some chill songs for when you're just sitting and stuff like that. Mix it up, but not too much to the point where you're like, oh, what's happening? What's this music playing in the background? Sometimes you forget the music's on. A really amazing song during a trip will stick with you forever. The beat hits right here. You're over here processing the lyrics and you're just like, music is art. Everything's just so great on Shroom. Just lovely. It's lovely. It's a whole world that might seem so scary and dangerous and taboo, and then you enter it and it's a whole community. It's a chill ass community. So yeah, that was my first trip, and those are some tips and tricks and things to know. Like I said, biggest things are playlists, comfortable clothes, fruit and delicious snacks to eat afterwards, something refreshing. I didn't really crave any like, oh, I need chips, I need chocolate. I wanted something fresh and healthy. Go outside and enjoy the weather there. Trip inside though, you know, you could trip outside, just like in a backyard. Don't go trip in public. Don't drive. Don't be a dumbass. Don't drive. Stay at home with your shenanigans. Don't go in public. Don't be trying to drive nowhere. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure nobody's about to come over and ring your doorbell or something like that. But yeah, that was my first trip. Like I said, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. I used to be the type that was like, shrooms sound dangerous and oh God, those are the hard drugs. Now I know about shrooms and I've educated myself more about them and I'm still learning and stuff. And after the feeling, especially somebody who's severely depressed, and I go through a lot, as everybody does in this world, and I just be going through it and my emotions just be, you know, like it was really nice to just not feel sadness and anger and depression, and it was just euphoria. Like we were so happy, we were crying tears of joy, like the kind of tears you see at people's weddings or when they first have their baby or that kind of stuff, like major life events. We were crying tears of joy for just existing and being happy. So yeah, that was my first mushroom trip. If you are tripping for the first time, please be careful. Definitely incorporate some of those tips if you like to. My boyfriend at the time was like, y'all are some drug addicts. That same boyfriend ended up tripping the second time on my trip too. No peer pressure, of course, but yeah, same boyfriend who was like, y'all are drug addicts, ended up tripping. I hear bragging to all his little buddies, and now the boys wanna, you know, try shrooms. The whole gang wanna try, the whole gang wanna trip. I see you. It's wild because it's like once you do them, if you're a like genuine person and you care about seeing other people happy, you want other people to be happy. Like your closest friends, you're gonna be like, yo, I need to tell you about this thing because it's gonna blow your mind. So yeah, my second shroom trip was actually with him and my best friend, and I'm actually gonna get into that if you want to hear about that story time. Apparently he's like immune to shrooms. Yeah. Not really, but like I'll tell y'all about it. It's wild, but yeah, that happened. So check out that video if you want to hear about my second shroom trip. Thank you for watching this one. If you vibe with it, if you enjoyed the story time, please do like and, you know, share, subscribe. Definitely lets me know that you're enjoying the content, you like what you see, and it supports me so I can keep making videos like this. Right now, unfortunately, there's a lot going on in my home situation and living situation, so you might see me in different backgrounds. Right now I'm in a hotel, but that's what I've been working on lately, trying to move out and be an adult. And I know you're like, stop doing drugs, Danny, and get your life together. Yeah, that's the plan. Thanks. Anyways, much love, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.